Our speaker is deeply entrenched in agriculture. He is the head of the Alva High and Middle School Vocational Agriculture Program. I understand he's got some ties with 4-H over once in a while. The FFA, yes, you saw those wonderful people show up a few weeks ago. This is the head honcho, Randy Nation.
Well, thank you very much. I want to give you guys, just because I know some may not know, a little bit of background as far as about me, how long that I have been here. Been here since 1993. I joked with Arden and got pretty close as to the year that he retired. But this is my 27th year here at Alva. I still remember the day that I interviewed to come here. I don't know that I've probably ever been considered a hometown boy because I didn't grow up here. I remember going to school with a lot of friends that were from western Oklahoma, and they would ask, okay, are you on the west or the east side of I-35? And there's a line that they would let you know was there. So in some ways, I still get to call Alva home, but I'm not a hometown boy. The difference is I have my wife, Lisa. She has also worked at Hopeton State Bank for about the same length of time that I've been here. We've been able to raise 2 daughters in this community, and they get to call Alva home. I like that. You know, we had chances to leave and maybe get back closer to family at times, but we felt like this was a great place to raise our kids, a school system that I felt like was one that, for its size, you know, a lot of times, especially if you're from Alva, I think that you like to feel like this is a big community, and it is for our area, but I felt like it was a school system that was the perfect size, but still yet offered many valuable programs. I was listening to, I just say, some of the other groups that were maybe coming to talk to you guys, and I think it's great that my kids had to experience some of those other organizations as well. We have 2 daughters. One of them does live here at the community in Alva, and she works at the college. My other daughter is actually in her 7th year of pharmacy school at OU Pharmacy School. So I'm looking forward to whenever I can say that she's out of school, but that gives you a little bit of background as far as me and my family. We're celebrating, as far as FFA and agriculture education, this is a 50-year anniversary of something. I don't know if anyone can guess as to what that is, but if we look around in this room, I'm going to say that the male to female ratio is probably 90% male or 95. And 51 years ago, there were not any girls in the FFA. It was voted in 1969, so it has been 50 years that girls be allowed into the FFA. And just to give you some statistics on that, my wife actually used to work with a young lady at the bank that she liked to brag that she was the first girl in FFA at Alva. That was something that she took pride in. Today, and I checked on the statistics, and Alva pretty much is in balance with our state average and in balance with our national average. Of these 669,000 FFA members across the state, 47% of them are girls today, are females, and that's the way it is in the state of Oklahoma. It's right there around 47% of our state enrollment is female FFA members. We have approximately 90 FFA members here at Alva, and it's right at 47% of those are girls. With that said, I feel like as I stand back and look at officer teams that I have had recently, as far as we elect 6 officers every year, the girls usually hold a slightly higher percentage than that. This year, of our 6 officers, 4 of them are girls, and there has been some teams when 5 of them are girls. I feel like a lot of times the girls, they enjoy, or maybe they'll take the initiative. I don't know if, and don't take this wrong, but I think that sometimes they mature a little quicker. They like to communicate. They like to be leaders, maybe sometimes are more motivated about that. And females like to step up and take those leadership positions. So I thought that was pretty interesting as far as what our numbers are. She alluded to the fact that I do have a 4-H connection. We do here, and most of it, I don't pretend to take the leadership position as far as that Mr. Highfield would be as far as our area extension 4-H leader. I don't conduct their meetings. What we do at the high school is we do assist a lot of those 4-H members as far as related to livestock projects, where if we're out looking for animals for some of our FFA members, it's just something we do. Actually, it's more of a recruitment tool for us. There are a lot of students that we may have an FFA member. They have a younger brother or sister that's in 4-H. It's a natural progression for them to do that, and it seems like that is our connection mostly. I know that, and I'm not exactly certain all of the things that they talked about at the last meeting. We do have several students that will be on traditional career development teams. If any of you were ever enrolled in agriculture education or participated, a lot of our traditional teams years ago might have been like an agronomy team, a pasture and range team, meats or livestock selection. And I'll haul a lot of those 4-H kids with me as well, as long as I have room. I may have an older sister or a brother of one of those students that's an FFA member. So we participate in a lot of those teams. It's a struggle. Everybody's out, from other communities as well to be very successful, but we've had some of those. I know that they talked about some of the highlights of National Convention recently. I can't take, nor other teachers take credit for some of the talents that some of these kids have had. Some of them are so driven. Basically, our job is to put them in the right place and make sure that they get there. One of the other things that I wanted to discuss with you as far as, and I think we see this a lot in agriculture no matter what it is there is a reduction of teachers, not only in other fields, but in agriculture education. There's certainly a shortage of teachers out there across the state, and it's a national problem. Recently at one of our conferences, they had all the ag teachers in the state of Oklahoma stand up, and they said if you've taught 1 year or less, sit down. Well, all the first year teachers sit down, and this is a room of like 442 teachers across the state that teach agriculture education. By the time they got to 5 years, more than half of the room was sitting down. And then once they got up there to my number of years, past 25, there was just a few of us, and we were sparse and spread out enough that our vision wasn't good enough. We couldn't see or recognize each other. So there is a very high percentage of teachers in my profession that have taught certainly less than 5 years. There is a high percentage that have taught less than 5. And one of the most difficult things that we face is retaining those. That's why there aren't that many that teach past 5 years. I know that it is difficult. I can still, even though I'm 52 years old, I remember whenever I was in college, I remember getting my first job, and you're so easily overwhelmed. We all, and you can imagine, myself included, the things that have changed. And I left mine at school. I don't have my phone with me. But think of the minutes of the day that we don't have a phone with us. And I can remember whenever everyone in this room, I'm sure, knows Jack Stats. I got my first phone when I moved here. He said, "You got to have a phone. I got to be able to contact you." We had one of those old Nokia bag phones. And I can remember hitting that thing a time or two and being rough with it. And I was always looking at it to see how many minutes I had left, because I was on a 20-minute plan. That doesn't last very long today, but it's such a challenge as far as there probably needs to be more one-on-one with those teachers face-to-face rather than just texting or socializing. Whatever happened to the phone conversation or just actually visiting, to where we can retain some of those. Something else that is of interest to me, which we have had female teachers, I think that it's good for us to be a program that offers both. When we have 47% girls, I think it's good to have a female teacher in our program. In the state of Oklahoma, there are 75 females that are teaching agriculture education across the state. That figures up to be about 17%. I would have guessed until looking at those numbers yesterday that it was much higher. I mean, I actually thought it was higher than that. As far as when they have us all in a room, the landscape of our organization has changed so much along those lines. And I think it's great. There's a lot of things that they can specialize in and do that I think some of us old timers, maybe they can certainly teach us a thing or two. Something else that I wanted just to let you know, as far as you traditionally think about a lot of the activities that we will be participating in the spring, and I know you guys know this as well. Our organizations hit community members, business owners. You're constantly bombarded with, can you give money for this? Can you give money for that? And there's a push in our system. Our superintendent recently asked us he gave us a questionnaire, and we're supposed to be pretty well itemized as to what our program spends money on during the year. How much do we spend when we go to contests, for entry fees, for motels, for meals, for equipment, and different things, because he would like to start picking up a bigger portion of that. He would like to reduce the number of fundraisers. Now, one of the first things that my principal said when he was talking about that, we're not going to stop selling blue and gold sausage. Now, I do take pride in the fact that there are a lot of different people in the community, although they may still have a package or two left over from last year. Most people like to get it. I've actually had it the other way, where I've been scolded if someone got missed, where I would get a phone call, hey, we didn't get contacted, what's up? And I always have a little extra in the freezer in case someone needs it, and that happens. Our fundraisers that we do basically are blue and gold sausage in the fall of the year. The only time we've ever had a sale in the spring of the year, I was contacted about trying to raise money in cooperation with the fire department for the senior citizens. At that time, and this has been several years ago, they needed to do some upgrading to pass a fire safety deal, and we just decided we advertised it like that. I didn't make kids sell it. I just said that all of this money that we raise is going to go to the senior citizens, and we were able to raise close to $5,000, but we got some donations because, some people bought it even though they didn't want it because it was going for a good cause. The other thing that we do is we have a greenhouse in the spring of the year, and we try to provide a pretty good array of different perennials and spring flowers, such that people would like to plant. They feel like they're getting something for a decent amount. There are other places in town that you can purchase it, but if you want to do that and try to help support our organization, that's one of the other things that we do as well. With that said, I know that some of you possibly had in the back of your mind that, hey, I get hit up for this trophy auction every year. That is something that our Booster Club does do. I'm here, so I might as well do a small commercial. We do have it, and there is an ad coming out in the newspaper that Alva State Bank sponsored to put this in there. We are having the 22nd, a local trophy auction to support 4-H and FFA members for our spring local show. That is something that the Booster Club does. If you've never attended, you don't actually see the trophies there that night. We give you a list of what we are providing. We give a list. There are some donated items. If anyone is into Sid Sterling's pies at your place, there will be some of there. I promise that she makes a peanut butter pie that is extraordinary that will be auctioned off that night. There's some silent auction items as well. Just to give you a little bit of background of how we divide our money and the number of kids that we're providing service for. Not every student is going to have an animal. Some kids do. Some of them do it as a family thing. They like to get together as a group. When I used to go to shows, I used to have a pickup full of kids. And I had motel rooms, and I was getting up at night checking on them, make sure they're there. Today, very few actually ride in that ag pickup with me. Moms and dads go. It's a time to get away. Some of them consider the Oklahoma Youth Expo to be their vacation. It's during spring break. I've actually got to experience about 3 spring breaks in 27 years because the Oklahoma Youth Expo is always during that time. With that said, we have 65 kids in this community that will be exhibiting animals at our local show, which is a pretty good number. Of that 65, 33 of them are FFA and 32 of them are 4-H. That gives you somewhat of an idea of how many of those that eventually will probably be in FFA of that younger group. They probably have an older brother or sister, but we usually take care of all of those entries, whether we do nominations online and different things. But that's the approximate number as far as the breakdown. There are 65. We do offer our students a livestock facility. We call it a school farm. Some of you may be familiar with it if you live somewhere within a few blocks. Maybe you've smelled it before, I don't know. But if you know where Foots Farm Supply, our school farm, is between there and the lagoon system of the cities, and that's probably a good location. I guess I've noticed a time or two that maybe school farms were in that location. Our school hopefully has a project planning, is what I've heard, to do some upgrade because some of our buildings do need to be improved. There are about 75, even though I said there were 65 kids showing, about 75 of those livestock projects are actually housed at the school farm. Most of those kids, there are a few kids that actually live out of town, but they don't, because it's provided, they don't take the expense to have their own facility. Most of those kids live in town. And when you get to thinking that there are 75 animals down there, that's quite a few. But we're trying to do some upgrading to beautify it a little bit as far as remove some older tin off of some other buildings and just put up some facilities for some of those other things. I hope, I don't know whether I have provided all the information that you wanted or approached this as to some of the things that you wanted to hear, but just for you to be thinking about, we're always in search of some type of community service project that we can be a part of. If you can think of things, we may have to move some of those to summertime projects, but it's always something that we are looking for, that if we can be a part of. I think it's good for those kids to not only have a community service project related to FFA, but other organizations as well. That's actually a requirement for our students that receive the state FFA degree, that they have to have so many hours of community service that aren't FFA related. Just tomorrow, the Key Club, and we're going to assist in that. They will be, we've done this the last few years, a program called Stamp Out Starvation, where there's a gentleman that comes and brings bulk products, and we help package those into meals. They vacuum seal them, box them all up, and those typically, at that time, they were going to Haiti, but that is a program that the kids like to do. And so if you can think of some of those things that you feel like that is good, that we should be a part of, feel free to contact us on that as well. I don't know if I took the time that I was supposed to, but if anyone has any questions about something, I'll try to answer them.
I don't have a question, but I want to say, Randy, thank you. My family's been the recipient of some of your magical pigs that show up 24 hours after you call. We have no idea how they got there, but thank you for being Johnny on the spot when we needed you. I don't know how many hours you put in a week, but I know it's probably twice what most of those other teachers do, so thank you for your service.
Thank you. Some weeks are certainly better than others. I want to say that it can get to be quite a bit in the spring, but hey, that's the way it is.
Randy?
Yes, sir.
27 years, kind of taking in mind total enrollment of the public schools, have the numbers of students participating in the FFA stayed pretty constant, or have we done this, or have we done that?
It has fluctuated a little bit, and actually, I mean, it's making an increase, really, I'm going to say, in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, you know, you think about 27 years ago, do we just have fewer family farms and you know, fewer people physically out on the farm and the other people getting bigger and bigger and not as many of us, you know, I don't know.
That's what we were discussing a while ago at my table, was that, yes, it has changed. There are fewer and fewer kids that actually are growing up on the farm. And that's why, I mean, we try to keep a wider variety of things to offer, because some of those, they don't have an interest in having an animal. It is hard, you know, it's virtually impossible anymore, I think, especially in this situation where if you aren't large mass production and those kids trying to, whether they have one animal, you're not buying things in bulk. And it's certainly much higher. The cost of feed has just, it's amazing to me how much it has grown.
So are more students gravitating towards your classroom programs because of ag mechanics and welding and different things like that versus animals and meat production and crops and soil and that stuff? Or?
Yes, I mean, we still, I'm going to say that our area and in the state of Oklahoma probably hold more of our traditional roots than what some other areas do, certainly. A lot of kids that come initially that, you know, they are a hometown student or a city kid, then they don't have an older sibling. It's probably friend related to incorporate this in, hey, we want to try this, you know, and come in and develop a passion for one thing or another. And so that's what I see probably more so.
One more question. Those lines, I was talking to an ag teacher in another state, and they didn't do animals. You know, I mean, I know it's important in our area, but it's not that way everywhere.
You're exactly right. And I'm going to say that Oklahoma, Texas, probably drives a big portion of the show animal industry as far as the number of animals that come in to our states. And Oklahoma seems to be a trading hub for a lot of these places. You know, they're coming across our state to get there. I would say certainly Kansas, the number of actual livestock animals on feed is much smaller than the state of Oklahoma. We have show seasons that seem like last. You know, I really prefer our kids to show in the spring of the year. Take some time off for the summer. There's been, you know, and my kids, we did it when I'm growing up. I'm the ag teacher. I thought, okay, I have to be there anyway. My kids might as well have animals as well. And there's certainly times that I wish that we had made that investment, maybe in a boat to go to the lake, just to take some time off during the summer. I think it's good for those kids that they come back and they're more highly motivated. They've had some family time to just take off. And you're dealing with heat as well in the summer, which we were talking about this. You know, we have had a pretty mild winter so far, and I heard this morning that maybe we're supposed to get the coldest air of the season, you know, front come in. It's not fun to when it's 16 degrees to go out and take care of something. That's the one thing that, you know, we use as, well, it's teaching that kid responsibility, and it is, and some of them handle it a lot better than others. There's some of them that I think, well, maybe this isn't for you.
You think that sheer temperature and weather is the reason why Texas and Oklahoma probably still do more animals than, say, Nebraska or Iowa or other places?
You know, it could be, and I think total number of programs. Now, when you say the show, they are running different seasons than us in the Midwest as far as Iowa, Indiana, Illinois. It is still a big part of their lifestyle up there and their economy. The Corn Belt, there's a lot of livestock in that area. So theirs has actually grown to be where there is actually a lot of youth breed organizations. One of the big things that I've noticed in the last 30 years related to livestock, and this is not commercial livestock, related to purebred livestock. The number of purebred animals, that gene pool is getting so much smaller. A lot of it has to do with fewer number of producers. A lot of it has to do with new technology, whether, artificial insemination is not new, but there are these organizations or these companies, that's all they do is they go out and purchase what is supposed to be superior, and we all are using this one bull or this one boar or this one ram, and the genetic pool is getting so much smaller that there's a lot more line breeding and inbreeding in animal agriculture than what there used to be. The numbers have, our purebred books that we get as far as for kids to look through, and whether it be the Hereford or the Angus or whatever, those books used to be an inch thick when I first started teaching, and now they're a lot smaller. And just those numbers have decreased so much.
Let's give Randy a hand.